Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm Jason Neufeld with Elder Needs Law. We're elder law and Medicaid estate planning attorneys throughout Florida. And if you watch the show, if you watch any of my YouTube videos, you know that I am committed to bringing you access to resources that you may not have known existed. And today is no exception. I am thrilled to have a very special guest with us who's going to talk to us about the trulink card. But before we get into our guest, before I turn over, I want to kind of set the stage. I want you to be thinking about why this is an issue and why I have this special guest on the show today, because I want to put it into context for you. So there's really two primary ways that my clients are going to be interested in a trulink card. And we're going to get into what it is shortly, I promise. In an estate planning context, we have clients who want to make sure that their loved one, whether it's a child or a grandchild, even a sibling, a friend, whoever, who is receiving needs-based public benefits like SSI or Medicaid, that they can still inherit funds without disturbing or prevent or kicking them off of those benefits. And estate planning, where you have typically it's a revocable trust that pours some assets into a special needs trust, that is a very common way of getting someone assets who really is not supposed to have them or direct access to them, but still allowing them to benefit from your bounty, okay? The second primary context is in our Medicaid planning world, where we are working with people who have too much by way of assets, and we're able to legally and ethically protect those assets and still get my client eligible for Medicaid, which can help pay for care at home, care in an assisted living facility, or care in a nursing home. That also might involve utilizing a special needs trust, because a special needs trust has a special designation under state and federal law, which says any money in that trust, A, is not a gift that can disqualify my client from receiving these benefits, and B, doesn't count against their usually $2,000 asset limitations. They can still benefit from these funds. So where does trulink come in? Well, when we're talking about special needs trusts, one of the biggest concerns that my clients have is, how do we access the money in the trust? And it causes a sense of urgency, because people think they're losing their freedom, their ability to spend their own money, right? Even though they might need needs-based government benefits, it doesn't mean they're completely incompetent necessarily. Maybe they still are able to go out and buy their own food or buy their own whatever they want to buy, and they can travel, and they still want to maintain as much independence as possible. And the threat, or it seems to be the threat of putting money into a special needs trust, is they're going to lose that access. This is where Trulink Financial can come in and be a huge help. So I want to, without further ado, introduce to you our guest today, Karen Convica, who is the Director of Strategic Operations and Services for Trulink Financials. Karen, please, first of all, thank you for being here. Please introduce yourself, and then let's get right into how a Trulink card can help alleviate some of the concerns that come with special needs trusts.
Great. Thank you so much for getting this issue out there, Jason, because you're right. This is a big issue that families and attorneys both deal with. I have a background as an attorney in private practice. I did special needs and elder law work myself, Jason, before having an opportunity to be with Trulink, which is a mission-driven organization that's really dedicated itself to working in the special needs community. So I'm thrilled to be with them and thrilled to be here with you. So excellent. You did an excellent job of summing up what the issues are with the distributions from these trusts. It used to be that an individual would have to take a third-party check to a big box store, or to a vendor, or wherever they needed to spend that money, which sometimes was problematic, and nowadays is even more problematic. Sure. Or they had to have a friend or a family member advance money for them, buy the item or services that they needed, and that person would get reimbursed. And both of those methods of getting distribution means that the ultimate beneficiary loses some of the beneficiary's independence and autonomy. And we always want our beneficiaries to have as much autonomy as possible, and to have that independence and be able to spend money that is meant for them within the context of how they can spend it themselves, without the intervention of a third-party check or having to reimburse someone. So TruLink card works. It's called an administrator managed prepaid card,
Mhm.
which means that the trustee of that trust would set up and own the account. And then the trustee of the trust would use the money in the trust and fund it. And it's all done through an easy to use app that you can do on your computer. And also now we have an app for your phone. So you can make all of these transactions as the trustee to the TruLink card through technology very easily. And then
So hold on. So wait. So let me stop you right there, and
Yep.
we're going to unpack this because this is all good information, but I want to take it one step at a time. So we have a special needs trust. That special needs trust will have a bank account or a brokerage account or maybe both somewhere, and then we have a TruLink card that is a Visa card. Is that
Yep.
correct?
Yep. So the TruLink card is Visa branded. It works like a Visa card at the retail locations, but it has the beneficiary's name on it.
Okay.
Which further gives the beneficiary that autonomy and independence that we want them to have.
And so you're setting up this very easy link between the special needs trust and essentially, is this like a prepaid debit card? Is that what it winds up being?
It's kind of like that. Yes. It's not prepaid to the extent that all the money is on there, but it works that way. It works as if it's a prepaid card.
And I mention it that way to tee you up for the next question, which is it's a softball. But I bring this up because immediately I know that there are some attorneys who watch this show as well, and I know what they're thinking. So they're thinking to themselves, well, wait a minute. How is this useful? Exactly. Yeah. You're not allowed to have a prepaid debit card. So I teach you up. So I set it up, you knock it down.
Yeah. So it's administrator managed and administrator owned. So the administrator can be the trustee, a family member, what have you. And in the POMS, the Programs and Operations Manual system that the Social Security Administration uses, TruLink has actually been named as a method by which distributions can be made for the beneficiary without disqualifying them. So money that's put on the TruLink card is not considered a cash payment or a debit card or a gift card payment that would typically cause a dollar for dollar reduction in benefits.
That's really important for people to know, because if they decide not to go through TruLink and go, I like this idea of just having a prepaid debit card through, anything you get at the store, right? That's a problem by just having your own prepaid debit card. But if you have a preloaded card through the TruLink system, because it is specifically contemplated by the Social Security Administration in the POMS manual, there is no problem. It is not like having money in your name. Do you want to make sure that's correct? Yeah.
And let me tell you why.
Yeah,
let me tell you why. It's because through the TruLink system, what we can do, what the trustee can do is there is a program, an application, you open it up on your computer and you can actually toggle on and off certain vendors and types of transactions. So for instance, we know that the Social Security Administration doesn't want the beneficiaries to have cash. Right. Correct. So there's a button inside the program that you can turn off cash. You can turn off ATMs. You can turn off cash back at purchases. So you can make these decisions inside the app and thereby controlling the fact that the beneficiary can't get cash, which is why the Social Security Administration allows it.
So you protect the beneficiaries from themselves, right? They have this card. They might be tempted to throw it into an ATM machine and try to pull money out, but because it's through the TruLink system, you're going to be able to prevent that from happening and thus eliminate the ability for the beneficiary to jeopardize their own benefits.
Right. And so if they try to use it in that manner, it'll just be declined.
Very good. Yeah. Very good. And I think this brings up that dovetails really nicely into, we want to give the beneficiary as much autonomy as possible, but occasionally I think we're probably worried about the beneficiaries overspending. Sometimes they can be their own worst enemy and maybe buy things they shouldn't be buying, even though it's technically might be allowed to go buy 10 new computers and an Xbox and the most expensive new couch on the market, that it rarely is going to make sense to be that wasteful. So how does the TruLink prevent the beneficiary from becoming wasteful of trust funds?
Couple different ways. First off, the only money that's available to the beneficiary through the TruLink card is a set amount that trustee has put onto the TruLink card. So you can manage it by the amount that you put on there, but then you can also manage it. Let's say you put a couple $1,000s on there, but you don't want it to be spent in one place. You can also manage it by putting a maximum amount of spending on any one purchase. So you could put 2,000 on there and say you can only spend $500 at any one purchase, and that would be your maximum amount. And so with this program and with the app on the phone, there's spending monitors. So you can set it up. You as the trustee can set it up that you get messages and notifications of spending. So you can sort of see how the beneficiary is spending over the course of a week or a month even, and can tighten up controls or loosen controls as the case may be.
Very good. And so we're talking, and I also wanted to bring up something we talked before we started recording this, is that you used to work for a pooled trust company. And I want to just real quickly, for the people who aren't aware what the big difference is, there's a special needs trust where you are choosing someone who can be the trustee in certain cases. And there's what's called a pooled special needs trust, where either if you don't have anyone to be a trustee, there are actually certain circumstances where you're not allowed to select your own special needs trust trustee. You have to use a professional nonprofit organization known as a pooled special needs trust. So I want to talk about a pooled special needs trust. Are you able to link up a trulink card to a pooled special needs trust in addition to a standalone trust that might be managed by someone you know as trustee?
Yes, absolutely. So individual trustees can utilize the trulink card and link it up to whatever account they have the money in, as well as pooled trust utilize the trulink card all the time. And then also outside of the context of a special needs trust, an individual can utilize the trulink card for, say, for instance, there isn't a special needs trust, but mom and dad want a method to give money to their child while monitoring the spending, or so you can load it that way as well. You can just connect it up to any old account and use that as a method of monetary distributions.
Got it. I'll tell you, occasionally I run into people who just have a revocable trust. They haven't passed away yet, and they are recognizing that they need help managing their own affairs. And so what they'll sometimes do is either voluntarily resign or elevate their children to be co-trustees with them of their own revocable trust. And if they're having trouble managing their own money and paying their bills, Trulink can just hook up to a run-of-the-mill revocable living trust for this sort of purpose as well, as I think what you're saying.
Yes.
That's terrific. That's very, very useful in a number of different circumstances.
Right. So it's not necessarily special needs all the time. Sometimes it's elderly. Maybe mom and dad have got dementia and are forgetting that they've already bought things, or maybe not vetting a telemarketer the way they should. There's all sorts of ways within the app to turn different vendors off. You can turn off telephone sales, for instance. I just mentioned, or any vendor at all. And even if you don't, if you don't see it in the platform, you can type in a particular vendor and search for it and turn off that type or that particular vendor individually. Okay,
very good. Okay, so now I'm saying this next question with a smile on my face, but this all sounds very expensive, Karen. This who can afford a service like this? What does Trulink cost?
Right, Trulink costs typically about $12 a month.
$12 a month.
So it's really not. You think about how much money that is, $150 a year. I think that adds up to, which is less expensive than a lot of regular credit card fees.
Oh, this is to give people the peace of mind to be able to still manage their own affairs to as much as they possible without jeopardizing their access to needs-based public benefits like SSI or Medicaid. This is, I think, a very, very fair price. And I just want to, just so because people wonder these things, is there a setup fee to get started with the Trulink card?
There's not. No.
Okay.
Just the monthly ongoing fee, as long as the card's being utilized.
Very good. And then with all of that, you get the app, you get to monitor the expenses, making sure it's not being spent on things that are going to jeopardize access to benefits. All sounds like a pretty comprehensive service for a low price.
And it keeps the beneficiary, like we said, autonomy. It gives the beneficiary that it keeps them from being embarrassed at a retail place, keeps them from relying on friends and relatives. Instead, they can have their own credit card.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Karen, this has been fantastic, and I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to share what Trulink does. Our law firm is a big fan of what you do. I don't think there's anyone else out there who does what you do, to be quite honest. And if there are, I haven't heard of it. So you're offering a very, very needed and unique service to our disabled and elderly community, and I want to thank you. Is there anything else you want to leave us with before if not, I'll leave you. I'll put the contact information. Anything else you want to end with?
Well, if you're going to put it in the contact, I just was going to say you can actually request a demo. Any individual can request a demo by going to trulinkfinancial.com.
Very good. Trulinkfinancial.com. We will put a link to that in the notes of the show. If you want to email directly, there is not Karen's email, but I'm going to give you Kara's email. That's a different person you haven't heard from today, but that's Kara, Kara .brewer, BREWER @trulinkfinancial.com. I'll put that email address in the notes as well. And with that, Karen, thank you very, very much for all that you do and for helping to educate our community.
You as well, Jason. Thank you.